Hello students, this is a video for the second semester students of the Department of Management, University of North Bengal. I hope all of you are doing good, staying back home during this very difficult times. Since I am in Kolkata, I came for some work and I couldn't able to return within time. So I'm stuck here. I do not have books and I'm also not able to take your classes. So I decided to create a few videos for you to discuss those things that I plan to discuss in the class. This video is exclusively for the second sem students with whom I was discussing weighted average cost of capital in the class. Since here in Kolkata I do not have books, the only equipment I have is my laptop, and I found one old copy of mine used to sums in this, so I thought to use it for your benefit. In this video we're going to discuss weighted average cost of capital. I just prepared a problem for you here. You can pause the video and you can write down the problem. This is an extract from a balance sheet. Say you have 1 lakh equity shares, that is 1 lakh numbers of equity shares at rupees 10 each. It comes down to 10 lakh rupees. Then you have reserve and surplus of 2 lakh rupees. You have 5% preferential capital of 5 lakh rupees. This is 50,000 number and 10 rupee each. Then you have 7% debentures amounting to 6 lakh rupees, 10% long-term bank loan 7 lakh rupees, and outstanding liabilities of 3 lakh rupees. Also given market price of equity share 12 per share, rupees 12. Dividend paid, that is in the last year the dividend paid was 3 per share, that is 30% of the face value, and growth rate is 5%. Now we are required to find out the weighted average cost of capital. Now, as you know, if you remember, it is nothing but the cost of capital multiplied by a certain weight given to it on the basis of, or rather in proportion with the contribution of that particular source of finance in the balance sheet. So if you can see from this, equity share capital, yes, it is a source of finance, so we have to take this into account. Reserve and surplus, well, it is obviously a source of finance and it is a part of the equity shareholders fund, so these two will be taken together. Preferential capital, yes, you have preferential capital. You have debentures, yes, it is a long-term finance, long-term borrowing. Long-term bank loan is also a long-term borrowing. Then outstanding liabilities, well, outstanding liabilities is not a source of finance. This is your dues that you have to pay, you haven't yet paid, so this will not come in the calculation of cost of capital because this is not a source of finance. Same goes for sundry creditors, provisions and other things in the balance sheet. Well, you have the market price here, you have dividend paid, you have growth. Let us assume there is a tax portion in it, tax at 30%. So the first thing, to find out the weighted average cost of capital, you have to find out first the cost of capital. Now in this question you have basically 3 modules. You have the equity module, these two, you have the preference module, and these two, debenture and long-term borrowing, these are your debt elements. So 3 kind of capitals you have here. First we're going to discuss the cost of, or we try to find out the cost of equity share capital. Now how to find this out? If you remember the Gordon's model, where we used to find out the price of a particular share, this was the model. P equals to D1 divided by KE minus G. So from this model you can see in this question we have this P, we have this D0, P is 12 rupees, this is P, we have this D0, that is 3 rupees, and we have this G. So the only thing that we don't have is KE, and we require to calculate KE only because KE is the cost of equity. So what I did, I just took this denominator in the left hand side and placed P in the denominator. Then again I took this, yeah. Then again I took this G in the right hand side. So from minus it becomes plus once you take it in the other side. Then I just put the values here. 3 multiplied by 1 plus 0.05. 0.05 is basically 5%. Divided by 12, that is the market price, plus this G again 0.05. So it comes down to something like this, 0.3125. 0.3125, if you remember I said, you just put this decimal point 2 digits right hand side and you will find it in the percentage, or you can just multiply with 100, so you get percentage. So 31.25% is your cost of equity. Now this cost of equity is vital. Similarly, we have to find out the cost of preference share, cost of debentures, cost of long-term loan. Now you see, what is this cost? Cost is nothing but the amount you have to pay against this source of finance. Now against the preference share, all you have to pay is the preference dividend. Preference dividend is at 5%. So the cost of preference share is 5%. So I just wrote the cost of preference share is 5%. That is the preference dividend percentage. Then the cost of debt. You have two elements of debt. You have the debenture and you have the bank loan. Now for debenture, 7% is from here. 7% is the rate of interest on debentures. Then once we give interest on debentures, it is an allowed expenditure in tax. So since we can show this expenditure while calculating the tax effect, our income will be decreased by this interest given. So we'll get an advantage in tax. So the company pays tax at 30%, as I said, at 30%. So this expenditure actually reduces my tax burden. The 7% expenditure reduces my tax burden by 30% of the interest. Now how it goes, I'll just show you. So you're going to pay tax on 100 rupees. So you're at 30%, you have to pay 30 rupees. Now if your debenture or bank interest maybe is 20 rupees and it is allowed in income tax, then your income will come down to 80. So you have to pay 30% and it is 24. So basically what you actually, you got an advantage of 6 rupees. You have to pay 6 rupees less tax just because you showed this expenditure. And what is this 6 rupees? This is 20 multiplied by 30%. So whatever expenditure you show, if you multiply with the percentage, you get the tax rebate. That is the amount of tax you can save because of this expenditure. Now, so therefore, for debenture and bank loan, we can have this benefit in tax. But for preference shares, we cannot have this benefit because preference dividend is a form of dividend. It is not a form of expenditure. Dividend is nothing but an allotment of profit, not a charge to the profit. So in case of preference dividend, you cannot get this tax advantage. This is not an allowed expenditure in income tax. But for debentures and for long-term loans, when you pay the interest, you show it in your income tax and you get the tax benefit of the percentage that you are paying tax on. So interest on debentures, it is 7%. multiplied by 1 minus 0.3. This 0.3 is your 30%. So the net cost of debt, the net percentage, this is what you pay. This is your cost of debt, but this is your amount of savings, 7% into 30%. So you are actually paying 70% of the 7%. 30% is your tax benefit. So 4.9%, 7% multiplied by 0.7, 4.9% is your net or actual cost of debenture. Similarly, for bank loan, 10% is your interest, but you are saving 30% in tax. So 70% of 10% is your actual interest on bank loan. That is the amount of cash outflow due to the interest. Cash outflow actually is 10%, but you are saving tax 30% of this 10%, so 3% you are saving. So the 7% is the net cash outflow. Now we have found out all the costs. Now we have to find out the weight. The weight is very simple. This is equity share capital. In your examination, you write it in full. I wrote it rupees in lakhs. You can write the full value from the question. So equity share capital 10 lakh, reserve and surplus 2 lakh. So these two comes down to 12. These two will be taken together as I already mentioned. These two will be taken together as both of them they form the equity shareholders fund. So these two comes down to 12. Preference share capital 5, debenture 6, bank loan 7. So